Welcome back, Spartans. This is your athletic director, Maeda, here on Monday, February 15th with our certified athletic trainer, Denise Robertson. Thank you, Denise, for joining us. Spartans, 2 weeks ago when we did the video, Hope on the Horizon, I kind of feel like Nostradamus that with us being the spot we are today, but I did not predict that it would drop 17 points last week on the COVID numbers. So thankfully, we are where we are, and our school district is allowing us to return to sports this week. So Miss Denise and I are going to go through the slide presentation to get us going back to sports. Denise, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing our screen. Wow, I didn't have it queued up this time. Sorry about that, everybody. So here we go. We're returning to sports, and everything's based upon the California Department of Public Health, the National Federation of High School Sports, and our CIF guidelines. Dr. Volkemer, our interim superintendent, just wants us to remember we've got to follow the rules. It is voluntary. Anybody may opt out at any time. And as always, health and safety are our #1 priority.
So in getting prepared to come back on campus, it's going to take all of us, from our coaches, our administration, support staff, myself as an athletic trainer, our parents, our athletes. It's going to take everybody following our guidelines that we've set forward. And health and wellness is always our #1 priority. So we have to keep that in mind.
So Denise, here we go with our return to sports logistics.
So first of all of our athletes must complete their athletic clearance online, their physical and insurance forms. Each sport is now in a team cohort with their entire sport. And we have staggered practice times and entries, and we'll go over that in more detail in a minute. And we're also screening our athletes and our staff with temperature checks, and then visual and self-assessment questions, and also cleaning and disinfecting our equipment and our facilities to make it safe.
So as Ms. Denise talked about the clearance forms, if you guys go to our athletics website, you see it at the very bottom there, www.sangorgonioathletics.org. Click on the information forms tab. There's a bunch of stuff there. The return to sports guidelines that is in the athletic clearance packet can be read here if you want to go back and read the different guidelines. That is where the address is to go to athleticclearance.com for the online packet. We do have uploaded versions of the doctor's physical form as well as the insurance affidavit. All three of those things need to be turned into our secretary, Miss Geraldine Logan, and her email will be at the end of this video. And then also you can click on the list of Spartan Sports head coaches. There's a list of all their emails. So depending on what sport you want to be in, you can figure out which sport and how to get in contact with that coach. So that takes us into our sports schedules that we have starting this week. This is the fall sports. You're going to notice cross country kind of just go through. They're starting tomorrow, February 16th. The days of the week for cross country will be Monday through Friday, and this is on all the sports. We're not going to go through every single sport. The arrival window is from 3 to 3:15. That's a 15-minute arrival window, as well as a 15-minute departure window, which you're going to see is important. The location of cross country and all the sports will be there. So cross country is going to be at the JV softball fields, and they're going to enter through gate number 4, the Stadium South drive-through, which we're going to show you in the maps coming up.
And you'll notice that for volleyball and cheer, they're coming through the same location, entry number 2, the west parking lot, but you'll notice their arrival and departure times are staggered, and that will help us to maintain our social distancing to keep our team cohorts.
Yeah, keep our athletes safe.
To keep them from arrive on time and then have your ride pick you up on time as well.
Yep, most definitely. Here's our spring sports. You'll notice that softball is starting this week on Wednesday, and we have some other sports there. that we starting next week.
And you notice girls soccer is to be decided shortly, so stay tuned for an update on that.
And then wrapping up our spring sports, swimming is actually the same as water polo, so they're starting this week. Boys volleyball is going to start this week as well. They were actually a fall sport before the December spike hit, and so they've been moved into the spring by CIF, and so they're starting on Tuesday as well. And then you'll notice that basketball and the wrestlings will be starting in the next couple of weeks coming up.
And also notice that the scheduled times and days may change. So for example, boys volleyball, they're starting Tuesday and Thursday. And in a couple weeks, they'll be going Monday through Friday just to get more workouts in as their season start gets.
Okay, so that takes us to our phases that were created back in October. In November, when we started up, we were in phase 1. We are now following the California Department of Public Health guidelines and the CIF State Sports Medicine Advisory Committee guidelines. We're in phase 2. And so the lower contact sports, such as like swimming and cross country, tennis, they're in full practice mode, but they're not yet allowed to compete. Our district will let us know in the upcoming weeks when the numbers get even better, when we'll be allowed to compete, but you'll see that we are moving forward. The higher contact sports will be conditioning, individual skill drills, and sharing balls. However, those balls and equipment will be disinfected on a routine basis throughout the practice. And that takes us to our daily practice steps. Ms. Denise, go ahead.
So it's very important that you report to your specific entry point for your team. Again, a 15-minute window, and have your parents wait for you to be cleared as we take your temperature and ask you the screening questions. No spectators. If you're late, we have to close the gate because another team cohort will be coming in, so don't be late. Have your own mask, bring plenty of water, and come dressed for practice because the locker rooms are not available because we have to stay outside.
And we're still screening the athletes and staff, as Ms. Denise mentioned earlier. The number one thing is if you're sick, stay home. If you have any of those symptoms, it's just better to stay home. Contact your coach, text them, call them, let them know, hey, coach, I'm not coming today, but keep everybody safe and stay home if you're sick. One change that came out in December from the California Department of Public Health is that youth that are recovering from COVID-19 who are asymptomatic and have mild symptoms should not exercise until cleared by a physician. So make sure that you go get your doctor's note if you are recovering from COVID-19 with asymptomatic or mild symptoms.
And we're still taking attendance every day for contact tracing purposes. Again, after practice, you're going to exit through the assigned gate. And again, 15-minute window, and we still have to socially distance while we're waiting for our rides.
Okay, that takes us to our maps. And so on this map here, you're going to see for entry point number 1 is for water polo and swimming. It'll be right here by this gate where the tennis courts kind of meet up with the cafeteria. You park in the east parking lot coming off of Arden, and then you'll head down towards the pool.
And notice that when you're coming in, you're staying to the right on the sidewalk. And as you exit, you're again turning around, staying on the right on the blacktop so we can socially distance.
Okay, for entry points numbers 2 through 4, you see our lower fields map. The second entry point is here off of the west parking lot. It's by the JV baseball field, and that's where girls volleyball, wrestling, and cheer will enter. Over here is gate number 3. This is the north drive-through stadium. That's where boys volleyball, track, and boys and girls basketball will come through that gate. And then gate 4 down here at the bottom is south of the stadium, like on the visitor side of the stadium. And that's where cross country, baseball, and football will enter.
And just as you look at this, just notice the different locations for each team. Again, we have to stay separated. So each team is going to have a designated practice area to report to.
Okay, we actually, for this reopening, added entry point number 5. So here's still entry 4 that I mentioned before. Down here is number 5. We added this one for softball because right here by the varsity softball field is where our softball teams will begin their practices.
And notice that for country, we're still coming in gate number 4, like we did in the fall, and then crossing through the outfield between baseball and softball, and then going to the JV softball field as your location.
Okay, and so with this reopening of sports, adding the soccer and tennis teams, we do have a unique situation. The soccer teams will be practicing across the street from the high school at the San Bernardino Soccer Complex. To enter the complex, you come through the parking lot gate that is off Pacific Street. So that is south of the fields, down here off Pacific Street. You'll come through that gate and exit through that gate with your vehicles. And then each day, check with your coaches because the field assignment will vary. You might be on fields 1 through 4, on Monday, but then on Tuesday on another field. So you'll just be checking with your coach as to which one. And then basically in the parking lot closest to that field assignment for the day is where you'll actually check in with your team and your coach and get cleared. For tennis, unfortunately, our tennis courts are under construction. We took some heavy wind damage in December. And so we're having to practice tennis down at Pacific High School. Thank you to the Pirates and their athletic director, Ms. Carmel Brand, for sharing their facilities with us. You'll notice here that for us, for CNG, we'll be entering off Pacific Street. There's a drive-through gate and a parking lot that is immediately east of their eastern tennis courts. Kind of over here by their JV softball field will be our entry point.
So we're using, for Sanji, we're using the 6 East tennis courts that you can see there. And we're going to be socially distancing because Pacific is going to use the other courts and come in a different area so that we don't cross over with their athletes.
Yeah, we'll make sure we keep everybody separate. They'll come in here by the handball courts and we'll come in on the other side by the softball field, the JV softball field. Okay, that takes us to our final safety reminders.
So just remember, Spartans, even while you're not on campus, we are 6 feet social distancing at all times.
Yeah, and Miss Denise, that's when they're going from practice. So when you're waiting in line and you're in team meetings, make sure you're 6 feet social distancing. Also, as always, wear your mask at all times, except for, of course, swimming's not going to do it, or except during vigorous and high aerobic activity.
And wash your hands before and after your activities. We'll have sanitizing stations when you check in to keep those hands clean.
When you guys go home, clean your clothes upon returning from the activity. Just an extra layer of protection.
And again, bring your own water because we're not sharing our water. We're not sharing clothes. We're not sharing equipment. We are using some equipment during practices, but those are going to be disinfected between uses, between athletes.
And always be on time because of those staggered sports schedules. Coming and going, those 15-minute windows are critical.
And again, if you don't feel well, if you're having symptoms, you feel sick, just stay home. That'll help keep everybody safe, keep your whole team safe and being able to participate.
Okay, that wraps up our presentation for this return to sports here in February. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach us via email. You'll see my email down there as the athletic director. My secretary, again, she's the one that's collecting the physical packets. So please make a copy, scan, take a good picture of your documents when you send them to Ms. Geraldine Logan. For Ms. Denise, thank you again for joining us. There's hers. If you have any sort of medical type questions to Miss Denise. And again, for our head coaches, you can find a list of their emails at our athletic website. Miss Denise, again, I thank you for joining us. Thank you again for all your hard effort and work in putting this together and keeping our Spartans safe, and just the time and commitment that you put in along with our coaches in helping do sports for our Spartans. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to get back on campus and seeing everybody.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. Stay safe and take care.